Well, basically, senator, I covered in my comments, it comes from senatus and senex. And basically, they're the elder congressmen, the ones people listen to. And they're given a special title, such as senator, but most of them haven't earned that respect in my book. But speaking of elders, we'll talk about the elders, and we'll talk about their ancestors, the Druids. Now, the Druids go back to about 2300 BCE, according to most references I will cross-referenced. I'm not an expert on the Druids, but I know that their center at one point was supposedly in Gaul, and there was Chief Druid. They were a secret society. They had a priesthood. They studied science and astrology and astronomy and astrotheology is the subjects that would encompass what they believed in and what the practices entailed. Now, if you go back to the ancient Irish texts, there's a lot of references to the Druids, and there's a lot of documents about them. And supposedly a lot of these rituals we do come from the Druids, like the mistletoe at Christmas. The Romans even talked about the Druids as barbarian sorcerers, and they had ritual practices, sacrificial practices. They suppressed the Druids at one point, and in 1919, we go all the way forward to the History Island. We go talk about the Anglo-Irish War and the treaty. This is what I'm showing you right here. Is the Treaty of the Anglo-Irish War, and we talk about people like Collins and Brendan Behan, Stephen Behan. And, they're all part of Irish history in Dublin, and the intelligence networks. But if you really go to the beginning of the Irish War, it's the Irish volunteers, the guerrillas. See, guerrilla by night is not always bad. It's not always a bad thing. But it doesn't always work either. But it does get you a certain distance at times. There was Nigerian guerrillas. There was Irish guerrillas in Ireland in 1919 and 1921. And they had their conscription crisis in 1918. So there was a lot of problems with, the ranks of the IRA falling from about 14,500 to about 4,000. Went from 5,000 guns to about 800. So they had problems. And there was a lot of burned documents and a lot of rumors going around, and there was a lot of squads like the 12 Apostles, and so basically it's the same thing. They had problems with police, they had problems with the army, they had problems with the English colonists. And so as you talk about the history of Europe, as I was talking about in some of my other videos, and I was talking about how you have small countries like Latvia and Estonia and Luxembourg that people don't talk about, Bulgaria, Romania, that you don't hear about that much. And of course, I'm sure the people in Norway and Sweden and Finland would like to be referenced a bit too, but that's a lot of the research you can do on your own. That's not central to my, how should I say it? It's not central to my videos, okay? You have to understand that the different functions that were taken, that the secret societies undertook. Okay, you had the magic wand. The magic wand isn't just a wand or an African staff or a pen or pencil. It is all of them. It's not a piece of tan bark, a piece of coal, a piece of flint. There's different means that they use to write. Like the Lord wrote in the stone the 10 Commandments for Moses and the Jews. So it's not just that, okay? It's not just sacred ground, and we talk about the Valley of the Sun and the Four Corners. We talk about the Native American tribes. I was going to start listing the tons and tons of Native American tribes, but they were wiped out, so many of them. And again, it has to do with what I'm talking about, but it's another subject in its own as well. If I was going to say, okay, let's talk about the Arawak tribe, or, that is a subject best talked about by them. So what I'm talking about is the migrations of people and the relevant history to secret societies, the bankers, the Illuminati. Okay, it wasn't the Native Americans who were extorting everybody. That's why I don't speak on them. It wasn't the Indians who was extorting everybody. That's why I don't go into detail about the castes and the cultures and the food and all this stuff, how they like curry and spicy food. No, no. I'm not going to go into Thai food and Vietnamese food and sushi and Japanese food, and I'm not going to critique the different American versions of them either. You know what I'm saying? Though I do like Benihana's and places like that where they make the food in front of you. Anyway. We're gonna get back on track and talk about the Druids, talk about the symbols and the mythic dimensions and the mystical religious experiences they had, and how this connects to Stonehenge. Look at when Stonehenge is built. Look at when the Druids took place. Who were the Stonehenge? They were the pagan barbarian rabble. Who were the Druids? The pagan barbarian rabble. The Welsh texts. Okay, understand how Scotland and the symbols they wear and the attire they wear, how that relates to the Egyptians. But they are not the ancient Egyptians, but they are very closely connected as far as religious practices and rituals. Based on the migration of people and the contact of people, I believe that two things. One, that Moses knew a way across the Red Sea that no one else did. And two, that the Asians knew how to get across the land bridge and how to take boats across, and they've been going across for quite some time. Especially the small ethnic peoples, ethnic tribal peoples of the area. When we're talking about Asia, okay, we're talking about Korea, we're talking about and the people of Russia right there by Alaska, the Asiatic kind of people, the Euro-Asiatic kind of people you find there. And a long time ago, they were dark-skinned Afro-Asiatic people that migrated through Iran, through Kazakhstan, through China, through India, all those directions, all the way up, we're talking about northeast, all the way up until they crossed that land bridge right there. So, what are we talking about here? We are talking about peace treaties between the English and the Chinese, the English and the Indians, English and America, English and the Nigerians, English and the Irish, the English and the Scottish, and so on and so forth. The English and the Germans. Oh, peace treaty, peace treaty. We'll take an inch, beat up a few of you rabble, and call it a day, eh? First we send the troops, and then we send the whiskey, and then we deploy more troops and hit them with whiskey as well as good old-fashioned musket rounds. Cannon fire as well, of course, oh, but of course. For the king? No, not for the king. For Lord Rothschild, of course. Oh, of course, but of course. The rabble. We are gonna mistreat the rabble, then teach them to turn the other cheek. Turn the other cheek, boy. And accept our version of history as well. Romans 13. Romans 13. Oh, you do not like my King James Bible? What do we have here? It's peculiar. You don't like my King James Version? Now listen here, you subhuman rabble. You are gonna fall in line. Just like at the concentration camps, like Prince Reinhardt, Lord Rothschild, Prince William, Queen Elizabeth. You thought Marie Antoinette was bad. You should see my bank accounts. And the reserves I have for cake and pastries. Oh, our extravagant cake at our wedding. You should have been there. You should have been there. It was charming. It was dazzling. It was flamboyant. It was bucolic, even. It was worthy of a British prince of Teuton and Saxon descent. Our German Neanderthal ancestors makes us superior to you pathetic Negroid rabble.